Ether can do more things than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is worth a whole lot more. So Ether surely could at least gain on Bitcoin at some point.
If it was simple, everyone will do a good tokens, right? With good economic mechanics and when capturing and stuff. Do you ever need a token? Because I mean,
Right.
you need a token if you have some problem in the project that you need to solve with the token, right? If you govern some abstract things that nobody cares about, the value of such kind of a governance is zero. It's like not a good idea to charge your community one token, then convert it to Ethereum, which will mean constant selling pressure, right? If nobody will use chain, that can be double spending. It's evidence. If supply of Bitcoin was not limited, it will never achieve such price. So finally, you will get value from Bitcoin when you do a value transfer, not another way. If you just hold it on your wallet, you will never get value derived because you just own it. Nobody will trade an asset. This is also constantly on one price. If it is not like technical, it's like a stable coin that where the value comes from being on $1 all the time.
One way to not have a like shitty volatile airdrop is to have utility, number one. How in the world do we value tokens? We see, whenever I look at the price charts of various crypto tokens, I am always very confused. Why in the world does one token make a whole lot more or increase in price a whole lot more than other ones that I feel maybe would in a rational world be worth a lot more than, say, some sort of meme coin? I feel like there's either two ways to kind of look at it. You kind of do the technical analysis where you put a bunch of lines on a chart and you say that the price is going to go up because it touched this line at that cross, or you kind of just make stuff up as you go. Well, I'm here with my friend Vasily Sumanov, who is the founder of Valueverse and the inventor of the token value capture mechanism framework, which is, I think, an actual legitimate way of trying to understand how tokens are valued and why, based on like an understanding of real value. So yeah, I'm here with my friend, and yeah, Vasily, if you want to maybe give a quick introduction of who you are and what brought you to making this value capture mechanism.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being with like a very smart podcaster on the on the podcast. It's super cool. So and not all people understand the value of understanding fundamentals for tokens, not just pure hype, but more economics there. So I'm really happy to share some insights on that. So yeah, just some small introduction about me. So I'm Vasily. I'm in crypto for a really long time. I started in 2013 with some mining, trading, and moved to the some ICOs, understanding projects, and maybe in 2017, 2018, I saw a lot of token launches, a lot of tokens, like just flooded the market. I always ask what I can do with this token. What's the value behind it? What's the utility? So I mean, literally, I have one token. What my actions as a holder? How can I get some value from the project? And they said you can sell it on a higher price, and nothing else, or you can buy something.
Right.
And I mean, then the understanding of token engineering and token design was really on a very low level. I also tried to educate myself and just sneak into this topic and start to develop it, and helped a lot of projects with designs, understanding, advising on some decision making in token design, I can say this way, and like building these, exploring projects, seeing how all of this works. I found that a lot of tokens, totally different tokens, have the same patterns, have the same some kind of utility or some functions. For example, you can have token in the gaming and token in DeFi, and they both have governance, and it means that the source of value is governing some limited amount of resources in the community, which is economically is the same, but the projects are totally different. Tokens are totally different, and there were more and more tokens, and I understood that you need to have a kind of a framework or some classification methodology to be able to understand every new token coming to the market really fast. Because if you're just making it like as some whole explanation, blah blah blah, it's a report for 20 pages without any real conclusion. So but we need to be sharp. You can do this and this, and you get this and this type of value, and you need to understand how to value the value. Finally,
Right.
how it depends on what. So yeah, this is why I started building it, and and build a framework which is mainly focusing on origins of value, on the source of value for a token based on the utility functions. And yeah, published paper recently. I mean, it was long time prepared, but now like academia is really like a long pathway for publication, but finally it's published. And in 2024, I got a token engineering prize, like a year, like most recognized contribution to token engineering over the year in token engineering community. So, and I got an award there, a kind of a grant for building something. And I thought, wow, but maybe I can start just doing this on a scale and build some kind of analytical platform that will help people to understand value behind tokens based on my methodology, on the value capture mechanisms, and just build it and ship it and just give access to it. So this is how all of this started.
Yeah, I remember, whenever I first bought Ether years ago, and at the time, the only reason I kind of bought it was like, or the kind of thinking at the time was like, Ether can do more things than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is worth a whole lot more. So Ether surely could at least gain on Bitcoin at some point, and therefore it was like a good investment. I didn't really have like particularly good understanding of why it would be good. I mean, I knew it would be useful on the Ethereum network that was supposedly going to have smart contracts. Supposedly DAOs would become a thing. It was all very theoretical. But I think we've gotten kind of to the point where enough tokens have been made where at least you've been able to create a very like systematic framework for understanding why is it that some tokens like generate more value kind of abstractly than other ones and how that could interpret into price. I think it's also interesting, one thing maybe you forgot to mention is your background in chemistry and
Yeah.
how much the if you look at the framework, we'll hopefully we'll get a visual at least on the video to show it. But you refer to it even as like a periodic table, which is like it's very nice if you're someone who likes to categorize things in a systematic way. It's really nice, and it also, like the periodic table, leaves room open for potentially like new combinations of I think what you call like origins of value. But maybe before we get that, I think maybe just for the people who are like totally maybe unaware about this space broadly, could you kind of define what token engineering is for those people?
Yep. Of course, it's a very broad topic, and if it was simple, everyone will do a good tokens, right? Which are good, economic, mechanics and value capturing and stuff. But for me, in a simple way, it's building, building some kind of economic system on top of the project or integrated with the project that will maximize one kind of metrics and minimize another kind of metrics. Because, for example, in consensus, what we want more Ethereum be staked, right? And and the consensus pays some rewards for that to encourage people staking. At the same time, we want like no attacks, no problems in consensus, no double spending. So put some slashing mechanism to to be sure that we are protected from that. That if someone will do anything bad in Ethereum consensus, the stake will be penalized, right? And this is discouraging to do any kind of attacks or dishonest behavior. So in my view, any kind of good token design increases good metrics for a project and decreases bad metrics or like metrics that we don't want to see there, that behavior that we want to avoid. Finally, so the token is a coordinational tool. At the same time, the token is a tool to protect the system. So this is how I see it. So one metrics we need to increase, another metric we need to decrease. And I think this is the most simplest definition of the
Right.
good results in token engineering and what token engineering is finally.
Right. So I think this may sound abstract, but I think maybe like if you're thinking about it through the lens of like, you have an idea for a project that requires a token, you probably need to keep in mind what are the things that you want to promote from that system and what are the things that you want to keep at bay in that system. And that being the basis of then being able to choose or having kind of like guardrails and how you design the system through that token being something that would help facilitate coordination within that system, ideally in the way that you kind of like whatever is like the purpose
Yep,
of that system.
yep, yeah. But I think there is a question number zero: do you ever need a token? Because I mean,
Right.
You need a token if you have some problem in the project that you need to solve with the token, right? And solve it efficiently. For example, you want to enable decentralized governance, and
Yeah.
it's almost impossible to do it without tokens. Of course, you can say if you have DeFi protocol and someone will deposit liquidity, let's make governance counting votes on top of your TVL. So you submitted 1K USD into the protocol, you have 1K votes, and someone submitted 1 million USD in the protocol, he has 1 million of votes, right? But I mean, it's easily like you can easily gamble. You can submit a lot of liquidity for a very short term, win the vote, and withdraw it back. So, and when you have limited token supply distributed in some rational way to long-term supporters of the projects of the project, to some liquidity providers. So, because for token you have limited supply and you have like some distribution mechanics, and if it is not screwed up, it should work much better than doing something like just counting liquidity, because this liquidity type of governance is very open to attacks. It's any whale with a lot of USDT can attack it, just submit for one block and vote and withdraw in the next block or something. So I mean, if you have some problems in a project that you can solve with a token, probably you need a token. I will say it this way.
Right.
You cannot
Right.
build a consensus without like proof of stake consensus without staking tokens that act as a skin in the game and can be slashed. And the whole Lincoln Layer project is built on the idea of this cryptocurrency security mechanisms, right, on the worldwide scale. So,
Right. Right. And I think like the kind of creation of this field of token engineering, in part, I think, comes from the extensive history in crypto of making bad tokens, or like tokens that people are critical of, and having this desire for something that is different, or something that is better. Because yeah, at its most simplest kind of way of happening with like, you make a protocol, you make a token, that token is used for voting, but in a very like abstract way, then it's very, very capturable by someone who has a lot of capital generally. And that's what we see in plenty of these DeFi DAOs.
yeah, the question for the governance is always what you govern and what is the value of the thing that you govern. So if you govern some abstract things that nobody cares about, the value of such kind of a governance is zero. If you don't have a feedback loops, for example, you vote and the good outcome of the voting that grows the protocol, increases the token price, or at least provides some additional value, like maybe some protocol fees or something that is acting as a feedback loop, right? You do a good decision, you get some reward, or get some positive thing after that.
Yeah.
So the problem of governance is that in the majority of projects there is nothing to govern really. I mean, it's some bad examples of that.
Right. Is that what you think is like kind of the biggest trap that a lot of these projects fall into when doing token design?
No, I think that the biggest trap is counting token distribution mechanics as token functions. I think this is the biggest trap and biggest misunderstanding in token engineering on the worldwide scale. Because you ask, what is the utility of your project? What I can do with the project, your token? They said, if you use our token for rewards, this is the utility, okay? So you just provide them like a free money, like printing from thin air. Person gets this token and it cannot do nothing with this token, or maybe use it for the governance that is not valuable at all. So, I mean, the value capturing mechanic or the utility function is something that token holder can actually do with the token in the protocol and get some value from it, at least maybe some social value. Of course, not all value is tangible, but I mean, if you're airdropping tokens to someone, it's not a function of the token. And this is the first biggest trap and biggest misunderstanding. So rewards is distribution mechanic, right? It's not a utility. And the second is using token for payments. Of course, there are rare cases in which this type of thing is really good. For example, you cannot make like guess like price index to the block space in Ethereum without Ethereum. But at the same time, we see the Gnosis and the XDAI and such, right? So on the small scale, you even can use other tokens. We have practical examples of it. Of course, in Ethereum is much more complicated why they did it, and there was no XDAI, and the gas solution should have some relation to the value of the Ethereum, of the consensus. It's much more broader topic, but I mean the some cases where you need to actually paying the token are very rare, coming down mainly for layer ones. Even if you see the rollups, they collect fees in Ethereum, right? So if you use Arbitrum, you pay in Ethereum. There are some rare rollups that using non-Ethereum tokens like Mantle, right, as a native token for paying the gas. And anyway, if you have a rollup, you need to to post the state on the main chain of Ethereum, right? You pay in Ethereum. It's like not a good idea to charge your community one token, then convert it to Ethereum, which will mean constant selling pressure, right? The tokens that they paid for the gas, to convert it to Ethereum, to pay Ethereum for the, putting some state updates into the blobs. So even rollups don't do this, big rollups. So
Right. Which effectively means they all pay rent, I guess, in a way to the Ethereum blockchain.
yep.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I mean, definitely, yeah, classic kind of like we've made a thing. We're going to make a token and you're going to get an airdrop of that token. What does that token do? Don't worry about it. You'll make some money. Everyone just kind of dumps the token when they receive it. And then the token has no value. And then people are like, this was a scam. But, in large part, I think it's this like need for potentially maybe founders in the beginning being like, we need money, we need capital. Tokens are a great way to like attract capital in some way, and then to like have this big release at a certain point where they kind of maybe they need to make they don't necessarily, but it makes this incentive where they don't necessarily need to make the product, they just need to like release the token as a way to continue the existence of its organization, and the product that it makes, it's up and down. It's kind of a guessing game of whether or not they actually finish that product sometimes.
Yeah, and you saw a very big movement of doing token without doing a product in a legit, way. It's meme coin. So,
Yeah.
and since there is a lot of demand for meme coins, means that the abstract community wants to play in this game, into this casino. So they pay for this. Project creators, benefiting from that. This is something that was sustainable in a way. I mean, sustainable in a way that there is some money inflow, because if nobody will buy meme coins, nobody will create them, right? So
Right. So maybe now it'd be good if we can take a high level at your framework. I don't know, maybe how best, if you want to kind of take a step by step high level of kind of what that is. I know I think you should be able to share your screen so that at
yeah,
least people
I
in the
will. I
video
think
can.
yeah, I will. I will try to do it really fast, because of course I understand that this could be it could be a lot of information. So yeah, first of all, I want to like distinguish supply and demand side and token design. So the supply side is rewards, incentives, how tokens distributed, team advisory, all of these allocations is the supply side, how tokens goes to the holders, right, to the holders community. And the demand side is why I need to own this token, what is the value for me from owning this token, why I'm motivated to still own it, and etc. So like the governance, which cash flows, access to something, etc. So and my classification is focused only on demand side. I'm not classifying supply side at all.
Right.
So my area of work is this,
Yeah,
like a
that's
green
super
candle, not a red.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think that's super. Yeah, like buy pressure and sell pressure. I think it's super interesting because also, a big part of, side notes, a big part of neoliberalism was like this hyper focus on supply side economics rather than the demand side. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting in a place like crypto where there's a lot of, libertarianism, there's a lot of like interest in neoliberal economic thought, that like here we're saying like actually we're rejecting a little bit of kind of neoliberal dogma of focusing on supply side stuff, because that's actually what's been the problem in crypto, and we focus on the demand because demand is what actually drives things. But yeah, just a side
Yeah,
note.
yeah. We try to understand how to create value, or not how to sell it right away. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I started from understanding coordination of value. It looks a little bit complicated because a lot of academic works mentioned here about the value creation chain in the firm, and value shops and value networks. But in a nutshell, if we have some kind of a project, this project produces some kind of value, right? If somebody uses it, this user receives some value. And it means that this value in majority of cases is created by coordination of agents. For example, if you have Uniswap, somebody makes swaps, putting some fees right after the swap. Somebody supplies liquidity, somebody creates pools in the Uniswap, and it means that even Uniswap is not it's just an app, right? A DEP before the Unichain. If you're talking about the Uniswap as a DEX, even this system is a system with network effect, and the value inside Uniswap is created by all these liquidity providers and traders and pool creators activities, right? So, and this is some coordinational value which is created. So, and my approach tries to highlight how token can capture the share of this coordinational value inside. So we're starting from the point that in some kind of a system, we have a coordinational value, and this coordinational value is created by the agents which are participating in this system as users. Maybe sometimes they're also developers, but I mean, different agents, right? So they create some kind of value, and we need to understand how to extract this value in a sustainable way to a token. So, but the next concept that we need to discuss is a value function. It also looks weird. I will just discuss it very simply. So any kind of asset, also non-crypto assets, can be considered here. The value of any asset is some positive value minus some negative value. For example, you own an apartment, you can rent it out and make some money, or you can leave it inside this apartment, get value from living there actually. But at the same time, you need to pay taxes, you need to pay some electricity, water expenses, you need to clean it. So you need to do a lot of activity and spend some money to maintain this apartment, right? So, and for tokens, it's the same. So any kind of a token has a utility function, and the utility function is all the positive gains for the holder. For example, you owning some amount of tokens, you're staking them, you're getting some cash flow, you're getting some governance rights, everything, right? This is definitely positive for you because it's the cash flow is most tangible value that you can account. Governance is less tangible, but it's also a value at least. But at the same time, for example, you need to run a node, you need to pay a cost for the node, you need to have a risk of this being slashed in case of misbehavior, and this misbehavior can appear even out of your control. For example, your RPCs failed and your node is crashed, and this slash you because there is no required uptime. So the utility function for token is positive part minus negative part, and this is very important because the negative part in the majority of cases is some cost that you need to spend to get the utility. For example, you cannot get rewards in Ethereum consensus if you not stake token in your node. It's solo staking. Of course, you can say you can put to Lido, you can put to Rocket Pool, but this is a special project built on top of Ethereum that abstracting this type of cost and this type of activity for you and taking the fees from that, right? In original Ethereum design, there was only solo staker nodes. You're a node at your home, you stake Ethereum, you get some rewards. At the same time, you have a cost and risk of being slashed and cost of the node running. And also, there can be some other risks of slashing, as I mentioned, because it's a cryptoeconomic security requirement that is needed for successful coordination. If nobody will be slashing Ethereum, there will be no coordination of good actors in Ethereum, right? Nobody will use chain that can be double spended. It's evident. So we're starting from this, and now we need to recognize the separate value origins, how token can derive value from this coordinational value inside any kind of system that we discussed. So, and the main definition is original value. So, what is original value? So, de facto is a elementary economic pattern which based on the system policy. System policy means what you can do and how it works. For example, in Uniswap, one token, one vote, you can vote. If you have a balance of tokens before the block of proposal creation, for example. And this reflects coordination of value and it allows token to accrue value. So it means that if you vote in Uniswap, you can influence the decision making, right? It's a very big protocol, like multi-billion protocol, big community. So, and some decisions can be really important, right? And you can influence the decision making, and if you're getting the desired outcome, you gain from this desired outcome. For example, you're from BNB chain community, and you want Uniswap to be deployed on BNB, so you vote for this, and it's finally deployed on BNB, so you start doing some pools, doing some trading there, and you get some value from this subsequent activities. So. Or, for example, in Curve Wars, you vote for some pool, you get some bribe, and this is monetary reward for your vote that you casted, right? So this is a very direct monetization of the governance, monetary representation. So you influence management of limited resources, which are amount of rewards per the epoch, and you get bribed for that, and you get real money for that. So, and this is so finally you got a share of governance value in terms of bribe in this example.
Right.
So this is the fundamental concept. So, and I will open the next other document to make it more faster. So finally we have 6 positive and 2 negative origins of value, and these 8 elements, 8 economic units can describe any kind of token, as is in the word that I saw before, and I don't know what to add here. I mean, so we have
Not
six
yet.
positive value transfer when the value is captured from involved in settlements, like in Bitcoin, right? Even if you store Bitcoin as a store of value and you hold it, okay, the Bitcoin will be worth much more because it's very limited supply. You need to understand that store of value, that type of thing comes from the limited supply, which is a supply side economics, right? If supply of Bitcoin was not limited, it will never achieve such price. So, and if you want to get value from Bitcoin, you need to move this Bitcoin. You need to send it to exchange and sell it, or you need to exchange Bitcoin for some, other asset, I mean, money, house, anything you want. So finally, you will get value from Bitcoin when you do a value transfer, not another way. If you just hold it on your wallet, you will never get value derived because you just own it. So future cash flow, when you can derive some cash flow, governance, when the value is captured from unique option to manage limited resources. It can be rewards, it can be some developers' time, it can be deployments, it can be anything, right? Something more available, something less valuable. Access, when you get access to some unique resource, like you get, with someone like NFT, you can get to the private chat in the community and get a lot of value from discussing something with whales or with some like-minded people, for example. Representation when the value is gained by another by a representative unit of other asset, like USDT is a representation of US dollar via off-chain banking, or the LP token is a representation of the position in the pool of, for example, two tokens in the pair, right? So hedonic value or scarcity is when the value is captured due to social contract proprietary or context. For example, some NFT is more popular than another NFT because the community is bigger, it's more respected. Or even in fungible assets, we can see the partial fungibility, like Satoshi, Bitcoin from the old wallet is much more valuable than Bitcoin from new wallet, right? That just was mined recently. So this also, even Bitcoin can have a hedonic value. So and you have to negative risk exposure and conditional actions. So risk exposure when you have a risk or losses, like being slashed in the node, and conditional action when you need to perform some actions like run a node. Or, for example, you have governance rights only if you have a token and at the same time deposit liquidity in the protocol. For example, this is also a case. So, and from these 8 origins of value, we form a mechanisms, because origins of value is just building blocks, and mechanism is the real thing, how tokens really work. So mechanism is when you compose some economic structure from several interacting origins of value. I will show some very simple examples. And value capturing implementation pattern is code implementation for the mechanism, because you can have, for example, one mechanism like what is called tokenomics, right? You can, like in Curve, you can have a Viper implementation, you can have, for example, some other project made a Solidity implementation, some third project made the same, but they change some parameters of the system, for example, but in general it works the same. So the implementation can vary. So I abstracted implementations from the economics to simplify understanding. So it's like 3 hierarchical classification, finally. So we understand the roots of the value, we understand how these roots connected with each other and produce value together. And finally, we understand how this is implemented in code and how it really works. And for example, who forked who changed something in the code, but this we wouldn't touch today.
Right.
So,
well, I think there's something interesting to say about that one, because it's basically, I think for people to kind of understand and visualize, in case they're just listening, origins of value are kind of like the building blocks, the primitive building blocks.
It's elementary economic units. And
basically
real economics is formed from these units. Yes.
The elements of our periodic table, in which maybe we will discover new elements as we go on. Combining those things for making value capture mechanisms together, but also then on top of that, added level of complexities where value capture mechanisms can be combined together into a single token system.
Exactly. Yeah. So there can be a token with several mechanisms involved, or there can be a token with one big mechanism. It depends on the are these sources of value logically and economically interconnected or not. So I'll show you examples. Sometimes they're connected, sometimes they're not. So we have clear rules for the mechanism creation and understanding.
Yeah. It was really nice. So here's an example.
I just want to mention an example, very simple one for the general audience. So some token taxonomies and methodology classifications, they say, okay, the discount tokens is a different class of tokens, blah blah blah. But I'm not. I think it's not correct, because the discount token can be distinguished to the future cash flow and conditional action. So how it works? For example, you own a BNB token and you can get some fees discount on Binance Exchange, right? So if you use BNB for paying the exchange trading fees. So, but if you let's imagine that you have a daily trading volume 100 bitcoins, and the fee is 0.2%. I mean, these numbers are indicative just for the podcast. So, but if you pay BNB, you have 0.1% fee, so 2 times less, 50% discount, right? So if you trade 100 bitcoins without paying fees in BNB, you spend 0.2 bitcoins over the day for paying Binance as fees for trading. If you use BNB for paying those fees, you'll spend only 0.1 bitcoin. So it means that 0.1 bitcoin you saved, right? So we can say that 0.1 bitcoin that you saved is your future cash flow, because it's real cash flow that it's a real monetary value that you saved. And let's imagine that you will inevitably trade this 100 bitcoins. So it means that even if you don't have discount, you need to do that. So you saved 0.1 bitcoin, and we see that the amount of your discount directly depends on the amount of your trading. So it means that if you own BNB but you never trade, you can never get discounts, right? Because you never use the product. So, but if you use the product, you trade. The conditional action is the amount of your trading volume, and it directly triggers the amount of cash flow that you will receive. So finally, discount tokens is the conditional action, and future cash flow. The conditional action is the activity of purchasing goods and products with a discount in some system or project, and the future cash flow is the amount of your savings on the discount. Very simple.
Right. So this is a pretty common centralized exchange token, essentially.
I mean, you go, for example, to Carrefour, right, to just a grocery store, and you have a card. This card offers you 5% discount. You percentage 100 euros per week for food for your home. And if you come in with a card, just with the card, you're getting 5 euros discount. It means in a month you save 20 euros. So this is your future cash flow from owning this NFT card, because it has unique numbers.
I mean, it would be interesting actually to apply this framework in kind of more broad examples of tokens in the world that are not necessarily crypto. But yeah, for a just a suggestion thrown out there, plant seeds.
yeah. My goal is to go on the broader level than digital assets, because I understand. So what we're talking about? We are talking about the exotic assets. So not like securities, the security has some cash flow and like some stocks on the market, right? We are talking about assets that have a lot of different functions interconnected in some creative way. This depends on that. And I mean, this is very exotic assets for the traditional fund managers. If you will show them 1inch token or Velodrome token, I will show later on the Valueverse, you will say, it's crazy. It's great. It's a very exotic asset, something we don't understand, or we need to make a research on that. So my framework, it tries to explain exotic assets. Yeah.
I think, and that's super useful and interesting, because I think it can help explain what exactly tokens are kind of doing as far as expanding the design space. It's definitely maybe a little bit of a financial framework for thinking about it, because of just what it is. But if you look at stocks in a company and define what that kind of value capture mechanism is, or the kind of maybe couple of value capture mechanisms that kind of you expect out of a stock or whatever else. And within this framework, you can then see that there's all these other different ways that value can be produced in a broad sense, that only kind of tokens on blockchains are really able to capture at the moment, it seems like, unless we're looking at, but then we can look at, I think you had the example of the taxi medallion and things like that as tokens that also have their own forms of value capture. But I think it's a super helpful reference.
Yeah, but in the digitalized projects and digital assets, we can build an on-chain analytics and see all the things that are going there, which is very useful. How user use the token, what amount of utility they get, what is the cash flow, what's who participates in governance, and how the consistency. I mean, you can build a lot of metrics, and this is totally free. The blockchain is open for everyone. I mean, you never can do it in traditional companies. So they file a report to some regulator authority or to some exchange authority. They just file the report maybe at the end of the year or the quartal, and I mean, it's not just off-chain world, right? In on-chain world, we have so much transparency for understanding economics. So this is, I think, is the biggest form of me, because I understand that you can dig into any kind of projects and see a lot of things there if it is on-chain economy.
So I'm curious. So you showed us a pretty a simple example. Are there any? I'm curious if you have any stories to share of the most interesting types of tokens that you've seen.
Of course, yeah.
Innovative.
Of course, yeah. So I think that over the last year, so one of the biggest innovation in token design was, of course, curves voted escrow model, because at least, I mean, how you can judge successfulness of token design? Was it, hacked? No. Did it capture value? Yes. And how many force we have for this, right? And we have V tokenomics became one of the most popular approach to build tokenomics for DEXs and yield aggregators, and even fracs used vote score tokenomics, right? So. A lot of projects using vote score tokenomics, and I think it's one of the biggest inventions in token design. In the past cycle, now we see in eigenlayer the abstraction of cryptoeconomic security mechanisms, which is also very interesting. And that token design of eigenlayer is interesting, but I mean, this intangible faults question is very like debatable, I can say. So also, I think one of the biggest updates in tokenomics was Ethereum proof of stake final implementation, because it's also it's, of course, the idea of proof of stake is very simple, but the implementation of proof of stake on such large scale is very complicated. It was a really unique invention, and with the Gnosis, for example, using Ethereum POS also, so, and some other projects sometimes using Ethereum POS. So I mean, this is also one of the biggest invention on the scale, I can say. But I mean, at this moment, what I see that we are entering a big era of AI tokens, and the majority of AI tokens are just memes, and not many of them have some real utility. Besides, for example, Venus AI that I made. It's not endorsement, of course. I'm just a researcher, so I did a token page yesterday and delivered it. So, but maybe we can go through Valueverse. Will show something on the practical and just discuss, and after that we can have some
Sure.
more brainstorming on that. So yeah, so first of all, what I want to say, a couple of words about Valueverse creation one more time. So yeah, as a token engineer, I understood that we don't know anything about tokens, because we have all the token trackers, Misari, CoinGecko, CryptoRank, CoinMarketCap, but what we have: market metrics, price, market cap, liquidity, and related metrics. We don't know how token works, what are utility, what is some utility metrics. So you can know only how to buy and sell, and where to buy and where to sell, and you don't know anything else. And how I visualized this problem, I understand that this is like a big iceberg, right? So, and market metrics is only the upper water piece, and underwater we have a lot of information that we miss at this moment. It's utility-centric non-market metrics, how it works, what is the utility, what's the metrics of utility, what the trends. I mean, do this cash flow growing, or do this governance value growing? I mean, you can calculate all of this, but to build this, you need to understand
basically.
the demand side. Finally, the demand side is missing.
Use value.
As a so we need to understand where the value is originating, and get on-chain metrics and build the metrics finally. So, and what is like good that I already built the methodologies, So yeah, this is, for example, the curve, how the curve looks like in our methodology. So you lock a token, you can get a governance value, you can get protocol fees, and you can get some additional future cash flow if you provide some liquidity to the boosted pools. Very simple model, but very efficient. It works. I mean, some critics on the curve model, they of course say some critics, but you need to also understand that there was a lot of yield aggregators that constantly dump tokens, and the amount of stablecoin exchange, I mean, the volumes of stablecoin exchanges also not so big as expected. So the model itself, from the economic point of view, is very good. But we also need to understand that market conditions and a lot of other third party problems apply to the price. It's not only the utility, right? So yeah, so I decided to build something that can show us token utility and metrics and real understanding on the deep level. So we got price on token engineering, we got some optimism grant and support from token engineering academy, and optimism and open source observer, and we start building this, and now I will show what we built so far. So yeah, this is the first token tracker focused on value capturing and economic design. So we have some tokens now. You see that we have value capturing mechanism, even instead of market cap. Of course, maybe we need to add market cap, but I mean, this is like alpha MVP, fully open for critics at this moment. So, and we can, for example, see how the 1inch token looks like, because it's very complicated. So, but let's try to explain the 1inch. 1inch is big project, but not many people know how token works. So it's looks really strange, like a chemical formula.
Yeah,
Finally,
it looks like a molecule.
yeah, it is because like I applied
Because
some chemical
chemistry.
background to this, as you know. Yep. So yeah, the thing is that you it's a water scroll economics, right? Similar to curve on the large scale. So you lock your token. The number one, you lock your tokens. You get risk exposure because you cannot withdraw token. You alienate your ownership rights in exchange for utility for a while. So what you get for locking your token for 1 year, you're getting a future cash flow for the protocol fees. You're getting governance value if you will vote. If you do the conditional action, if you cast your vote, you will get governance value. Also, if you get 5% of stake in the whole contract, you can get an access to run a fusion resolver node. Of course, you don't need to own these tokens yourself. Somebody can delegate. So if you get an access to run the node, so before you get this access, you cannot run the node. Wouldn't be registered. So if you have 5% of votes inside the contract, you have a chance, access, like opportunity to run a node. If you make a conditional action, if you run a node and maintain it, you receive a cash flow from fusion orders, filling in 1 inch. If you don't want to run a node and you have small amount of tokens, you can delegate conditional action via delegation, get future cash flow from delegation.
Yeah.
And
So for maybe
so this is very
for
complicated
listeners
token.
who
Yeah.
maybe for listeners who don't know much about 1 inch, and maybe you may also need to correct me if I've to make sure I fully understand, but 1 inch is a decentralized exchange that does that aggregates from various different other decentralized exchanges for finding like the best price.
Yep, it's a DEX aggregator, having more than 50% of total market share at this moment, number one in the world. And they also have the off-chain settling system with limit orders and
Right.
it's called fusion orders. So you can trade off-chain without paying gas, even with MRV protection. And some resolvers required to do a job. And this economics also have a regulating access to this resolvers market on the top of governance, on the top of protocol fees. So, and for every original value, you can see, what it depends on what for example, your risk is depending on lockup period, on the amount of lock, to the price at lock. For example, where the future cash flow comes from. So governance rewards, swap fees, the price impact fees. So everything is in detail, so you can understand everything. And if you're a dev, if you're a really nerdy guy, you can go and understand how this is built. Of course, this is some abstract, but we're building a kind of a mind map of the contracts, how the contracts are interconnected, what is where. And this is definitely better than the 1 inch documentation, I think, on the order of time, to be honest. With all the respect to 1 inch, it's really better. So if you will go to some
documentation.
we're not documentation as a service. We just try to to build our data platform. But yeah, I discussed with the founder. They of course are very interested. They will support us. For example, Optimism, which is a well-known project, is much more easier because it's only at this moment only governance and conditional action. It's only governance that we have there, so it's quite simple one. And we have some implementation details also. And here now we have some market metrics as an example, but we will have some metrics built from on-chain. I think maybe 1-2 weeks we will have them already. We are working on it. And if you have some tokens that are not listed fully, we have some, I can sell the token short. So all the new tokens are listed all the time, so you can see how to use this token, 3 bullet points.
Right.
For example, Mantra is on the Hype, or the PI network. Maybe not the PI network. So, and even this small amount of information, like sharp bullet points, you cannot find anywhere. It's like distilled information what to do with the token. So, and of course, in the future, we will add the full token page for each of them. But I mean, we need some time for that. So at this moment, it's only TLDR, but we are filling it. Yeah, and now we're also building AI to make it for us, and we're just seeing how it works. Yeah, and also periodic tables. Here it's fully interactive. So if you want to understand how it works, for example, for discount token, you can see which tokens are using this kind of mechanisms. And you can see a lot of gray squares, so it means that mechanisms are missing. Maybe there will be more of them.
Right. What do the numbers on the left mean? The 1 to 9?
From 1 to 9. So the logic of the table is on the top. Let's start with the top. is a dominant origin of value. So origin of value that contributes the more value to the mechanism, the biggest share. I mean, under our opinion. So
Mhm.
value transfer, future cash flow, governance, access, representation, hedonic value, because negative origins of value, they're negative, they're not contributing anything, they're only decreasing.
Right.
And this rows means the amount of the number of origins of value inside the mechanism. So the number one is trivial mechanism with only one origin of value inside,
Mm.
because the mechanism with only one origin of value is also it's also the mechanism, but it's like a trivial mechanism. So you can see that a lot of tokens have a value transfer, right? Have a
Right.
lot of
Right.
them. For example, access only BNB because it's access to large part. So you can see everything here. For example, the meme tokens. We also have a meme tokens. We didn't list a single one, but of course we will. But at this moment, we just not focus on that. So the meme token is when you have a hedonic value, like the value of meme. I mean,
Hmm.
it's trying to focus on meme coins which really have some meme value, right? Not just the market
Yeah.
making value. So
Right. Right.
we have some hedonic value, and we have some value transfer. Like for Dogecoin, there is a meme value and like popularity value, but also Dogecoin has like some significant amount of transactions, and somebody really uses it for transferring value at least between exchanges for arbitrage. So it means that the meme token is hedonic value and value transfer, in our opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice.
And
Yeah. Can't.
for example, for Curve, what's called governance, much more complicated.
Right. Right.
And you can see that Pendle and Villa also have Morse code governance. So this allows you to understand the similarities between tokens, and in the future there will be comparison of tokens of the if they're the same mechanism, the comparison of all the metrics, right? Like you compare two cars, the speed, the everything. So
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, nice. I'm excited to see bread in the in the token list.
it's well, it's a deal. It's a deal. We need to get bread, so we will do bread. We will do first of all like a token short, just to have it short, and then we will like maybe we need a little time, maybe 1 week in our pipeline to build a token page. So I will be happy,
Yeah, yeah.
to announce it, so and deliver it to your community. I mean, very happy to do this. So yeah, for example, this is Villa Drum. So yeah, we will do the same kind of thing. So let's kick off it.
Right. Nice. No, super cool. I'm super impressed by what you guys have been able to make so far. And yeah, I think it is a really nice evolution to see more um yeah, like demand side economics in the crypto space, where we actually get to the root of, the heart of the thing that supposedly we're all supposed to be doing, which is creating value for the things that we're building. And yeah, so that's nice to see. And it's definitely like, I think what's interesting about this is that this is definitely, it requires more work. It's qualitative, so it's things you can't necessarily solely get off of on-chain analytics. It's something that you need a smart guy to think about, what exactly how these tokens work. So very very impressed by what you guys have been able to do.
But all of this can be automated in the future. So I understand that to analyze 1 million of token pages, analyze 1 million of tokens in the
Yeah.
future, we don't need to analyze 1 million of tokens manually. We need to analyze maybe 1,000 of tokens and build an AI. So because we quantify everything by mechanism, so it means that if the token with the same mechanism, we know how to describe it, we know how it works, and we know how to build the metrics. Once we build the metric for the mechanism, we can build repetitively, right, for other different implementations, but it will be similar. So it's also scalable. It's much more complicated than, of course, build a CoinGecko type of thing where you just, asking the exchange's API, is this token listed or not, and what's the liquidity, right? It's
Hmm.
fully automated. It doesn't require any significant research, at least on the, some research side, just a technical implementation for API.
Hmm.
Our product is much more complicated, but I think, the price is much more higher in terms of, recognition on the world scale, because I think, building a platform that anyone can learn about any token, including new tokens that will be, just decomposed and analyzed by AI on the fly. It's really, even bigger than just checking the price. So I think it's a good goal to deliver it. So, and it's very
Hmm.
useful, I think, because you have
Yeah,
market
yeah.
prices on every token tracker, and utility designer don't have anywhere at this
Right.
moment.
So I have some maybe a question for those who are maybe listening who are thinking about creating something that may involve a token, but maybe they're very worried about kind of speculation or volatility on that token, that's not kind of like the thing that they're interested in. What do you think? What are some like pointers for them or like words of advice for people who want to make a token, but they don't want like the type of volatility that so much of crypto is like prone to?
I think it's not possible to do totally not volatile token because I mean not non-volatile token is a stable coin finally, right?
Right.
So if token is representation of something, it means that trading below this value is very good for arbitrage. So if you're finding a good stable coin at 0.9 and you really believe that this stable coin is not dead, you will definitely buy it because you know that in the future it will go back to $1 and nobody will buy a stable coin for 1.1 except on some technical issues when, for example, you need to cover the debt and there is very limited liquidity and you need to pay debt in only in these tokens. Okay, there are some examples when the stable coin can go up for a short time. But in general, tokens are volatile. Any kind of assets are volatile. If you will see the NVIDIA chart or the Tesla chart over the last 10 years, it looks like a meme coin.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, just going up.
Yeah.
So like parabolic or
It
something.
doesn't.
So volatility but I mean, if you want to have some non-volatile tokens, maybe they should be locked or non-transferable. But if you have a developed market, it will be volatile because any kind of market requires volatility. Nobody will trade an asset that is also constantly on one price. If it is not like technical, it's like a stable coin that where the value comes from being on $1 all the time. So
Right.
you don't need to
Right.
provide a big airdrop. So I think that the problem is some projects provide airdrop, but they're just printing free money. So this airdrop is not backed by any fees, by any value that user
Mhm.
brings to the system. So they provide a lot of airdrop. People sell this airdrop, go out, right, take out TVL, and it's totally wrecked. So
So maybe the question is more so how to not have a bad airdrop or like an airdrop that's like only
mm,
kind of like supply focused.
I think that first of all, if you have some utility with the token, you can provide your token in value activated form, which means, for example, you have some token stake, you can provide stake tokens that will be unlocked like gradually over 6 months or something. So you say, okay, you used the product, you got the token, you will be able to sell. Really, user, you will be able to sell. Not worry, you will get free money, but let's do it a little bit later. So you'll see how it works. You will derive some utility, maybe. So if you give this testimony, right? People say, oh,
Mhm.
maybe I don't need to sell it right away. Maybe I will get some rewards, maybe I'll get some cash flows, maybe I will persuade on governance. So at least they will try to use the token in the way that is designed for. They wouldn't, oh, I got a token, sell. I even don't want to read how it works. So this is one of, I think, easiest approaches. If you have some kind of, token function that requires lockup or staking, you can provide and stake it for with some lockup period. It's very easy.
Mm,
Or you
interesting.
can provide some gradually unlocks. Or so I think that the amount of tokens that you provide also is very important, and I think it should depend on not the some formal metric that you user brings some TVL or user brings some referrals, right? But the what actual value bring the user to the system and the referrals, right? Maybe they traded, they spend some fees. So finally, I think that the airdrop uh, is approach to sell the tokens to users in indirect form. So, for example, somebody comes to the protocol, somebody trades on
Mm.
some new peer DEX, spend 1K of fees and get airdrop for maybe $800 or 1K. I mean, just it. I mean, economically is I bought tokens paying my fees, right?
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
can be this type of way.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. That I mean that's in summary, one way to not have a like shitty volatile airdrop is to have utility, number one. Number two, I think what an interesting idea that maybe I'm getting out of what you're saying is like have the airdrop be sending the tokens first into the place where tokens have utility is maybe like one idea. Like if you're making some sort of new protocol, like you get an airdrop, but that money is only going into your ability to use the actual product for some sort of lockup period. So that then you basically force people who are like maybe they want to make money, but like now you force them to actually use it. I think that's an interesting proposal that I'm not sure if I've seen before.
I think that there was some, some examples, but of course not often. So the Pengu token, for example, was just a meme coin without any utility, and it dropped crazy.
Right.
Because I mean, the question is, okay, you provided tokens for your users. What they can do with these tokens? In the majority of cases, they can do nothing. So of course they will sell because they don't understand what to do with them.
Right. Nice. Great. Very wise words of advice. Yeah, was there anything you wanted to touch on before we get to the end here? Any last words?
Yeah. I just want to say that first of all, I advise any founder or researcher or person who tries to understand crypto dig into the fundamental of tokens. Of course, the market value can be different. You saw a lot of meme coins that pumped a lot without any fundamentals. Of course, we understand that market is very speculative and there are a lot of factors. So the price is a cumulative metric of a lot of factors. Is fundamental value, and all this value capturing is only the share of it. But the more bearish the market, the more fundamentals we take into account, right? Because now you don't want to go to meme coins, you go to some more tangible that provides you some cash flows, or at least something. So this is the first. So never forget the economics. And the second, I will make a small minute of promotional contribution offer. I mean, if you're building a project or you built a project with a token and you want some token page, just come to me. I will make it for free, of course. Just need some mention. It's in Twitter. So at this moment, I'm very happy to build some good educational materials for tokens that are already on the market to educate your community. So I can build a token page for you, and all I need in return is you need to highlight is in Twitter that Valueverse built something for you. So totally free. Of course.
Breadchain will be taking up that offer for sure.
Of course, Breadchain is number one in this list to deliver. Man, I will start working on weekends. So.
Well, thanks so much, Vasily. I appreciate you coming on and sharing the framework and the wisdom. I love having people who understand finance and DeFi stuff more than I do. I think I learn a lot, even if it's not the usual thing that socialists like to talk about and learn more about. I think it's super useful and super necessary to have these kind of basic fundamental pieces of knowledge to know, so that they can interact with the system in a smart way, basically. So I really appreciate that you've enlightened us.
Thank you for inviting, and I think that probably we can have more smart exotic assets on even off-chain world, on government governance, or any kind of level where average person can participate, average person is involved, because all these loyalty cards, points, I mean a lot of different types of assets that we even don't recognize as assets, right? You never recognize your card for the discount in the shop as an asset, but probably we will see much more of them. It will be very interesting.
Yeah. We're in for an interesting future, that's for sure. All right. Thanks, Vasily.
Thank you a lot.
Appreciate it.
See you.